Today I wanted to jump into a time capsule. I wanted to take you guys back in time 15 years, and I wanted to tell you a story. I wanted to talk about my journey with Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 in celebrating its 15th anniversary. Hey, what's up everybody? Nick here, and today I wanted to take a trip down memory lane. Now, if you guys know anything about me at this point, you know how much I adore Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. You also know that I have a plethora of stories that I never share about experiences with movies and my journey with them, and I've talked about some of those on the podcast, but I've never really delved into this one. So I felt like this would kind of be a perfect time. It's the 15th anniversary of Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 this week. It actually just happened, and it really took me back. So starting this out, I want to show you guys my movie ticket for Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. It is incredibly faded. I don't know if the camera will pick it up. I know that I can see it with my naked eye, but here is the ticket, and I think you can see enough of it. Halloween 2, Friday, August 28th, 2009, whatever, you get the point. You could see Halloween there. I keep that in my DVD case, and I do that for every movie that I go and see in theaters that I love. Also, as part of my OCD, I specifically always put those movie tickets in the edition of the movie that I watched the most, or the one that I first owned. I don't know why, that's just kind of how I am, and I know I'm weird, but whatever, it's what I do. But I want to take you guys back because as I was sitting here pondering, thinking about Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 and how it's the 15th anniversary, that was half a lifetime ago for me. I'm about to turn 30 years old, and it is crazy to think that half of my lifetime ago was when Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 came out. Now I can take you guys back to that day, to that journey, that moment, and the journey that I've been on up to this point. It was Friday, August 28th, 2009. I remember the day like I could never forget it. I was actually sitting at home. I was watching a movie on cable, and I can't remember exactly what movie it was, but I want to say it was Candyman. I can't remember, but I was watching a movie on cable, and every time there was a commercial break, almost every time, there was a TV spot for Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. And I was so pumped because I had followed the production of this film from day one, from its announcement. Because as you guys know, I saw Rob Zombie's Halloween in theaters on opening day. It was my first Halloween movie in theaters. And from that point forward, I was just like, I'm going to make it my mission. Whether I end up hating the film or have no excitement whatsoever, I'm going to see these things opening day. That started with Rob's Halloween. So my hype level for Halloween 2 after following all of the behind the scenes stuff as it was going on, and there wasn't a ton really to grasp onto, on Yahoo Movies, no less, I was really, really excited. So seeing these TV spots the week of leading up to it, I was just over the moon, elated. I could not wait. That day, my buddies Tommy and Chris came with their mom. She drove us in the minivan with their cousin Jay as well to go see Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. We were stoked because I saw Halloween with Tommy and Chris 2 years prior. Now we added Jay into the fold. His mom was just going to drop us off and then pick us back up. We were excited. We were talking about the first movie on the way there. I'll never ever forget. And I was actually anxious. I don't know. I do things when I'm nervous or anxious where whether it's biting my nails, which I've gotten a lot better about not doing in my adulthood, or I don't know, rocking a little bit or bouncing my knees and stuff. I was doing that in the van because I could not wait. The hype level for this movie, I don't think I've ever had hype like I had for this movie going into it. I genuinely don't think so. Maybe Spider-Man No Way Home. And I go in the theater, we sit down. It's more than halfway full. This wasn't some sparse crowd. It was pretty decently full. And we went to Colony Square Cinemas in Lebanon, Ohio, back when it used to be $5 for any movie. It's a little hole-in-the-wall theater, but we liked it. There was charm to it, and the popcorn was really, really good. And sitting in that theater, from the opening of the movie, it just completely washed over me. I wasn't talking to my friends. Jay would make jokes here and there or laugh at something, and I was just locked in. I was completely in the zone. And I noticed something while watching the movie in the theater. I noticed that it wasn't going over as well with some people as it was with me. There were people that were maybe laughing at parts that they shouldn't have, or groaning at things, or exclaiming. There was a lot of that. I feel more than I'm used to in a horror movie. And I think in the moment, I didn't really care. I didn't really think about it. But after the fact, I was reflecting on it and I was like, I think those were an indictment on the movie. So needless to say, I don't think anybody in the room, or very few people in the room, had the same response to the film that I did. And I remember when it was over and we were walking to the van, and I was talking to Tommy and Chris, and I asked them what they thought about it because I was so excited to talk about it. I loved the movie. And neither one of them really cared for it all that much. And it was weird because they both liked Rob's first movie. So I was like, oh, am I missing something here? Like, this is kind of weird. I go home, I log onto the computer, I go to the Halloween message board. Shout out to any of you that were on the OHMB back in the day. Yes, I know it is long dead now, sadly, but if you were on it, you remember it. And I log in, and I had slasher status on there. So if you guys are familiar, that means that you've posted, I believe, like over 1,000 times or something like that. I was a friggin' nerd, okay? And I was seeing on the thread about it all these people's first reactions, and there was so much negativity. And I was like, okay, I'm starting to piece it together now. I'm starting to see that this is not going to go over well with people. I was so enthralled with the movie that I could tell you, like, even as a teenager in that moment watching it, I did not have that thought of, this is not going to go over well with people. I genuinely just didn't think that. It didn't cross my mind because it was going over so well with me. I wasn't looking at it from a larger perspective. And man, people were trashing this on the Halloween message board. They really, really were. But there was a few people that weren't. And one that wasn't was the moderator. He just went by the name Franchise. And I was surprised because Franchise had this, I don't know, this nature about him. We all knew him to be this harsh critic, kind of like a pompous dude. And I was like, wow, okay. So I'm not the only one. But very few people were singing this movie's praises. And fans and critics alike seemed like they wanted to disown this movie entirely. Now, me, being the person that I am, I felt like I had to speak up for the movie even more. I got in countless arguments on the Halloween message board about it, on Facebook, I mean, you name it. I was really going to bat for this movie. And it just, the level of love and appreciation for it that I had just wasn't there anywhere else. But I wasn't going to stop fighting the good fight for it. I kept going. I was pushing. I really wanted to hopefully open people's eyes to this movie. It was January of 2010 when the movie was going to come out on physical media. And I knew what day because I used to track that stuff for movies that I was really excited for. And I still do. And so I lied that morning. I told my mom I was sick, that I puked or whatever, and she let me stay home from school. And she went to work, and all my siblings went to school. And there was a movie gallery about a mile and a half from my house. And I was like, I'm walking. I don't care. So I walked all the way to this movie gallery in January in Ohio and bought Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. And this was the edition I bought. This is the very first edition of that movie I ever owned. And the first thing I noticed, I did not even notice the unrated director's cut at the top. And even if I did at the time, I thought, oh, maybe there's just added scenes here and there. I go home, I pop it in my DVD player. I'm home alone. I can't wait to immerse myself back into this world. And I get to the end and I'm like, that's not the movie I saw in theaters. I hated that. Went to the internet, found out, oh no, that's the unrated director's cut. You have to seek out the theatrical cut. So I was pissed. And lucky for me, I found, I believe it was a Meyer that had it, but it was like a week later when I was actually able to get out there with my mom to buy it. And I bought the theatrical edition on DVD. And I've talked many times about how I feel like the unrated director's cut elevates this movie in so many ways with all the added scenes, when you get more interaction between Laurie and Annie and really see their dynamic and the deterioration of their friendship. You get more Brackett. I just hate the ending. I hate the ending. And I know why the ending is the way it is. It's basically Rob Zombie's way of saying, you can never bring these characters back. I'm done. F you. Middle finger to the Weinsteins. Totally get it. I just personally hated it because I didn't want to see Laurie die. I didn't feel like she deserved that. And Michael ripping off his mask and talking, even if it is Rob Zombie's Myers, I still don't think it makes sense. I just don't think it makes sense. It doesn't work, and I didn't like it. As my teenage years and early adulthood would come and go, I would talk to friends all the time, talk to people in social circles on the internet or in person about my reverence for this movie. And I remember talking to my buddy Phil about it. He was not really a big horror movie guy, especially slashers. It's just not his thing. He definitely likes the more elevated stuff. And I remember telling him, I said, dude, I think you're going to like this one. I showed it to him, and he loved it. He absolutely loved the movie. And that to me was more validation, I guess, at the time. Like, this is a guy that doesn't go for your normal run-of-the-mill crap, like, and he really liked it. So I was like, you know what? This movie is good. And in recent years, I've really seen the internet kind of turn a little bit, do an about face and be like, you know what? I didn't really appreciate it for what it was at the time. And to that point, I will say, A lot of that makes sense to me because a lot of people had expectations for it going in, and they felt that the film did not meet those expectations. They were expecting one thing, and the movie did a totally different thing. It zigged when you thought it was going to zag. And anytime a movie does that, especially one that you have high hopes for or expectations of any kind for, it can be disappointing, and it can kind of color your view on that movie, and you maybe don't go revisit it for years, and you're like, yeah, I saw it once and I hated it. I've done that with M. Night Shyamalan's The Village, the first one that comes to mind. And I don't think that's fair to movies. And, that's a criticism I lay on myself, too, that, like, some of these movies I need to go back and give another chance to because it's just not fair. So this About Face, I think, has been a lot of people going back and reappraising these movies after the Blumhouse trilogy because they had a lot of expectations for that Blumhouse trilogy. And in some ways, it didn't meet those expectations. And so they're going back and they're going, are these movies as bad as I thought they were? So maybe that's an indictment on the Blumhouse movies. People are saying, those movies are so bad that I actually like Rob Zombie's movies now. But it's not even really about Rob Zombie's movies as a whole for me, with his 2 Halloween movies. It's specifically Halloween 2. It has been really cool to see more and more people come around to this movie as the years have gone on. Can't tell you how many times I've gotten into arguments and comment sections about this movie over the years. And every time I make a video on this topic, it's less and less and less hate as the years go on. And I notice that. It is very noticeable. And I think that is really, really cool. I think that Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 was always a movie that was going to test how you view these movies as a fan and view the franchise and how you view Michael Myers and Laurie Strode and go down the list. And so I understand why it was so divisive at the time, and for some still remains divisive. But I think writing this film, or really any film, off entirely simply just because of its uniqueness and its boldness and the fact that it decided to do something different, I don't think is ever fair. You may give this movie a fair chance and go, it's still not for me. And that's fine. But when we talk about movies and the quality of these movies and whether they are objectively good or objectively bad or whether they do this right or that wrong, there's criteria you have to meet, in my opinion. You can't just say a movie is complete shit because it didn't work for you. Can you at least give a level-headed review where you're like, you know what, I can admit, though, they did this well, they did this pretty well, didn't care for this, but it was handled well, and I feel like that's gotten lost over the years. But with Halloween 2, I've noticed that not only have people gotten better about doing that, I've actually noticed people say, some of the videos you've made on this movie have changed my mind. You made me go back and look at this movie again. You made me appreciate the movie because of how passionate you are when you talk about it. Some of those comments are the best comments I ever get on YouTube. Ever. And still to this day, I don't think I'll ever enjoy talking about a specific movie more than this one. Simply because, if nothing else, it generates conversation. People saying those kind of comments, that they came around to it because they watched some of my stuff and it really made them appreciate it, or people that just have so much vitriol and anger for it, whatever it may be, it really generates conversation. And in social media as a whole, I feel like conversation is important. I don't want to live in an echo chamber. I want to hear differing opinions, and I want to hear why certain things didn't work for people. I want to hear what they expected. I want to hear if they're struggling to understand something and maybe I can help. Whatever it may be. That kind of stuff is really cool to me. So I guess all in all, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is like one of those journeys that has been the most rewarding to me as a fan of the movie from the very beginning, to see the perception change and to see and hear from people saying that part of that changing of the perception is due to me, even if in any small part. That's really cool. Because when I made my video essay on Halloween 2 last year, that thing blew up on my channel. Tens of thousands of views, and I didn't expect that. I was just like, I'm going to talk about this movie I love and kind of deconstruct it and explain why I feel like a lot of these things make sense. So that kind of stuff has just been really cool, and this journey has been really cool as a whole to me. I honestly never thought I'd see the day where you could probably poll a majority of people and they'd say they prefer Halloween 2 over Rob Zombie's Halloween. I never thought I'd see that day. Rob Zombie's Halloween was divisive, sure, but most fans thought it was at least okay or passable, with a few caveats here and there. Halloween 2, from its release, was widely panned. I never thought 15 years later we'd be where we are. And that's really, really cool. And I hope that as the years go on, it only continues to move in that positive direction, because I feel like if any movie in this franchise deserves it, it's this one. And although nobody ever associated with that movie is ever going to see this, I understand that. But I am thankful for the movie. And I'm thankful for the memories, for one of my favorite theater experiences. One of the only times in a theater I've truly been just sucked into the screen and just not paying attention to anything going on around me until after it was over. And one of the just genuinely most juicy topics I've ever talked about in my life. A gift that keeps on giving. I don't know, it's a fruit that you can keep squeezing juice out of, because there's always more to talk about with it. There's always conversation to be had. And that is just so cool to me. So yeah, I guess that's a little trip down memory lane, my history with Halloween 2. And what it means to me and why I'm happy it exists. But I want to hear down below in the comment section from you guys. First of all, what do you think of a video like this? I haven't really done anything like this before. And 2, where do you stand with Halloween 2 today? Do you love it? Do you still hate it? Are you indifferent on it? And how did you get to that point? I'd love to hear it all in the comments section. So please join the discussion down below. Leave a like on this video if you haven't already. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. This is Nick at the Lost River Drive-In, and I'm pulling out.